when a terrorist goes out and screams Allahu Akbar, I take him seriously. I know what he's doing. I get it. I don't believe in what you're doing, but I believe that you believe it. And I'm going to do something about it. And I'm going to respond. Right now what's going on in the world is that you have a bunch of Americans, Westerners, who are as weak as you could ever get, who literally don't believe in their own selves. And they're getting up and screaming from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, hashtag free Palestine. And they're getting up with all these statements over there. And then this guy the other day goes in front of our wonderful mayor. And he says to the mayor, stop screaming at the mayor. Like, you're not anti-Semitic enough. You know, he says, Israel has a right to exist. At least, like, what? No, it doesn't. By what right does Israel have a right to exist? And you want, like, and the mayor's like looking at him, smiling. At least he's smart enough to, you know. But I mean, there was a nod. I'm not sure if the nod was a nod of disagreement. I think it might have been a nod of agreement. And these are, I mean, I don't know if all of them are American, but certainly many of them are real Americans. And then there comes this this new thing going on, the new fad right now, the last couple of weeks, which is, are you actually Jewish? Are you? Who says? What makes you Jewish? Who says that you are the Jews of the Bible? Maybe you are, maybe you're not. And I posted a little clip on it. So the guys are like coming about and saying, but you didn't answer the question. You didn't answer the question. And maybe you should do a DNA test. Maybe you should go checking it out. So I want to explain this and give a proper solid answer to this. If you ask me, am I a male? Like, who says you're a male? That question seems to be ridiculous, right? Well, in today's world, it isn't so ridiculous. They're actually asking the question. So, but are you a man? Maybe you're not. What if you are a man born into a woman's body, or a woman born into a man's body? You look like a woman, you act like a woman, you taste like a woman, you whatever, but maybe you're a man. Maybe. And maybe I'm an ape. Maybe I'm not a human being, right? Maybe I just identify as a human, and I just identify as a male. When someone says to you certain things, you have to look at the person straight in the face and say, you are out of your mind. You're out of your mind. And my question to you is, first of all, I want to wish you what we call in Hebrew a refuah shalema, a speedy recovery. By the way, not that there are not situations whereby a male has a desire to be a female or a female to be a male. Those things exist, yes. But get this straight. Male is biology. It's the anatomy of a human being. That's what you are. Whether you're white or black or orange or purple, you're good, whichever you are. I don't care what you are. But you are what you are. And it's a certain fact about who you are. In other words, are males more dominant, more important than females, or females more male? I'm not talking about that right now. But a female is a female and a male is a male. And what's happening in the world is that there is an existential loneliness going on in the world right now. And it's happening by them and by us. And I think if you want to answer this question as to what right does Israel have to exist, or are we the same Jews as the people of old? And when the fact that you get a Tucker Carlson right now speaking about it, which represents really American thinking, and there's millions and millions of viewers looking at him. If you're a genuine anti-Semite, I'm good. Got it. I'm good with that. I accept that there's such a thing, and I'm good. But I think that most people are not necessarily anti-Semitic. They're just being influenced. And let's address the core question. Because the core question is, what's with a generation that's totally unsure about anything? There is nothing that you take as a fact. Nothing. And you'll deny the most basic ideas. So history is history. Yeah, but you could always argue about history. Maybe there was a Roman Empire. Maybe there wasn't. Maybe there was a Holocaust. Maybe there wasn't. Who knows? The issue is not the facts. The issue is why you don't have the ability to have any kind of anchor, and any kind of grounding in your life? And that's the real question to address. First and foremost, to address it by addressing ourselves. Do we have an anchor? Do we? Are we anchored firmly in who we are? You know, back in the day, there was a fellow by the name of Haman. Haman wanted to annihilate all the Jews. He was a classical, I would say that he was a classy anti-Semite. Because he knew what he wants. He understood exactly what Jews are, and he wanted them dead. So when he approaches the king, Ahasuerus, what he expresses is as follows. He says, Yeshnoi am echad, there is one nation. And they scattered all over the world. You, Ahasuerus, control the whole world. They're scattered all over the world. And they're very different. And they have different ideas. And they don't do what we do. They don't act the way we do. They refuse to assimilate into the culture. Now, those words, Yeshnoi am echad, in the Hebrew of the Megillah, it's there is one nation. But there is a Hasidic depth to those words. Yeshno am echad. Am echad is not one nation, but a nation of one. There is a nation of one. When we talk about one, echad, there's only one. The Almighty. There is a nation that even living down here on planet Earth represent God. They embody and express divine power. It is phenomenal to see evangelical Christians who actually do have a core belief system. And they understand, they get it. The Jewish people are God's people, the chosen people, and they get what this is about. It's incredible. The ambassador of Israel. Amazing. Mike Huckabee, amazing guy. You see, he gets it. He understands. And he gets we're not trying to be supremacists and assert ourselves over anybody else. No, nothing. It's just that a man is a man, a woman is a woman. A Jew is a Jew and a Gentile is a Gentile. It doesn't make you better or worse. It's just, this is what a Jew is. The answer to understand what it means, does Israel have a right to exist, is not to answer the question, but the questioner. And before you can answer the questioner, ask yourself a question. Am I a Jew? Am I? You know what happened to the Jewish people? There was a very, very cataclysmic event that took place to us. It took place, at this point, it's already 80 years ago. It was the Holocaust. What the Holocaust did to us was it shook the entire foundation of everything we ever had. I don't think we realize how traumatized we still are by the Holocaust till this day. What's the trauma? The trauma was they essentially destroyed completely, they wiped out families, right? They wiped out families. You understand that every single Jew living today is essentially a Meshuggah? We are all crazy. Every single one of us. You wonder, like, how come every single person has a survivor story to tell? Every single person alive today, as a Jew, has a grandparent, and you have some kind of survivor story to tell. Either your grandparents jumped off, he was the guy who jumped off the train while the train was going, or he was the guy who was in the gas chamber and then it was in and then he survived, or, no, it was the one kid in the family who decided to go to America or South Africa before the war and was able to get through and survive. Right? So you're wondering, like, how come everybody has a survivor story? You know what the answer is? Because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here. That's why. In other words, 90% of people did not have survivor stories. Correct. Those are the ones we lost. We lost the majority. So the ones who survived, every family had like 8 kids, right? There was one black sheep. And that black sheep decided she's going to America. And she's going to rough it out. Or that black sheep decided that when everyone's there, no, I'm going to survive this in the camps. And those ones created a new nation. And that new nation is traumatized completely. What's the trauma? We have absolutely no roots. After the Holocaust, people stopped having any sense of anchor. Nothing. Jews, I'm talking about Jews. Because if God could do this to us, the question about God is, many people dropped belief in God. And even if you didn't, you have no safety. Anything could transpire. The Holocaust was a trauma, the likes of which we've never seen before. And what that did was, ripped away our core beliefs and took away anyone who was actually able to guide you, because all of them were killed too. So we lost the greats of the great. We came to an orphan generation. You know what happened to that generation? They raised a bunch of kids. So all their traumas were raised by their kids. Still today, I have a Holocaust trauma. I don't know about you, I have a Holocaust trauma. You know what it is? I don't know how to not finish my plate. I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. And every time I look at it, I'm like, what's with you? Why do you have to finish it?
Tell my kids they don't have to finish it.
Right? You're trying to untraumatize, right?
Yeah, but I tell
But-
my kids they don't have to finish
Right. Now it's going the other way. That's also trauma. That's also trauma.
it. From trauma.
Exactly. Both of them are trauma. Exactly, yes. Because it's very simple. My mother was born in 1949 in Sighet, Hungary.
Oh,
My father was from there. No,
There you go.
my father was from there.
And she had 3 sisters.
yes.
One was born in 1939, one in 1942, and one in 1943. They weren't that much older than her. And none of them survived. And nor did their mother. So they were all murdered. And then their father, after the war, went and remarried. And created, I guess, a fully traumatized family. Pretty impressive. Because they got a lot of grandchildren, lots going on, right? And the other grandfather, by the way, on my father's side, he was in Jerusalem. And when he was 4 years old, so his mother and his father were both dead. And his father was 21 years old when he was walking around in Yerushalayim. And the Turks came and beat him to death in the old city of Yerushalayim. And they killed him. So the poor kid was raised like an orphan, fully traumatized, not knowing who he was. You understand the point? Traumatized by life, traumatized by loss of family, and loss of any kind of connection. That was a generation we lived in. Now take that generation and put them in, and now put them a little bit later and see what happens to them. What's happened to us at this point is we have absolutely no floor to stand on. There's nothing concrete. And what you're seeing right now is this expressed by an entire generation. So then you had, the 1960s, which maybe sexuality is something that should be just explored. Just, who says? Maybe it's something you do. Why call it intimacy? Why should intimacy be intimate? Let's do whatever you want. So right now we have this generation whereby there are no walls and no barriers. It's fascinating. That means to the benefit also, by the way, right? You can talk to people of any type and you see them, it's actually a good person. We used to think that we used to block because you never used to talk to the other guy, so you never knew they existed. So you see within Judaism, there's been many walls that have been broken to the good, to the benefit. But many walls broken, and then there's like, and who says I have to believe in anything? And assimilation. At this point, we're holding by a state that's not just the Jews, it's the entire world that doesn't know who they are and what they are about. And when someone says to you, are you the Jews of old? So explain to me who you are that's asking a question. Are you a philosopher? Are you someone who actually has a backbone? And you're wondering what my backbone is? If you are, I will answer you the question. I will give you an intellectual explanation. And that explanation will be, I will show you how Jews count, how Jews throughout the ages have survived, what it is, right? When someone comes to get married or do anything nowadays, we have Jewish genealogy. We actually check, is your mother Jewish? What are you about? Did you halachically convert? We have courts of law based in to be able to figure out whether the person's Jewish. We know very clearly who's Jewish. We're very into it, and we're very insular in the way we operate. But was that your question? Because I want to ask you a question. You're the guy who's asking. Do you have any backbone? What do you believe in? Because if you also have a question of who's a male and who's a female, and if you also have a question of whether Israel has a right to exist, so that means you're a different kind of anti-Semite. You're an anti-Semite with no backbone. Brand new type, new style. Once upon a time, there was a Haman type of anti-Semite who just bothered him that the Jews keep on embodying God in this world. It's the same thing in a different expression nowadays. People without a backbone. And the first order of the day is for me to ask myself a question. Am I a Jew? Am I?
You know, I always wondered.
Am I a Jewish Jew is the question. Not am I a Jew, a Jewish Jew. The definition of a Jewish Jew is a Jew who wears his Judaism and is not afraid of his Judaism and expresses his Judaism. A Jewish Jew is a proud Jew. We're not here to answer their question. I don't care what the world thinks about me. It's like the Prime Minister of Israel finally realized it. Here's how it works. He said the words, Haba lehorgecha hashkem lehorgo. If someone's coming to kill you, kill him first. That means in apologetic Judaism and apologetic humanism, you would ask, why did Israel and the United States strike Iran? I mean, what did they do to you? What did they do? And what's the answer?
October 7th.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you do have an October 7th if you want. But when we actually struck them at that time, they didn't actually do anything to us. It was a couple of years before, so you have to wait for them to strike you. In fact, in the Yom Kippur War, this was conventional thinking. Golda Meir was not willing to strike them because in 67, we struck them first. So in Yom Kippur, she decided not to strike them first. What was the result? Thousands of casualties on her hands because she was weak. That's why. The Iron Lady that she was. Her and Maggie Thatcher, right? Were the Iron Ladies. She had to, yep. But nowadays, it's incredible, right? It's incredible to watch that in the middle of all this apologetic everything, there's right now a Prime Minister of Israel and a President of America who have finally got it right, at least for this moment, and saying, listen here, let me first finish you off, and then we'll have a conversation. That's what they're doing now. It's great. It's wonderful. It's not about coming to see is it good or not that Iran should have a nuclear weapon. Get an understanding of it. The other guy has a purpose. Like, I think these fanatical terrorists and the Muslims, they got it right. They got something phenomenal. They actually believe in the cause. Take them seriously. The problem is they're fighting against a liberal Western world and a liberal Jewish world who are just not confident about who they are.
They're like a homo.
They are the Haman. Yeah, they actually get it. They're good.
So they have a
They have a backbone. Yep. They have a backbone. They have a backbone. Ayatollah has a backbone. Ayatollah knows what he wants. He knows exactly what he wants. Take him seriously. The problem is the Ayatollah is fighting against an American president in the past who's sitting over there and like, oh, hi, I'm so sorry. Can we have a conversation about this? And he's like, sure, let's have a conversation. We'll talk while I build my nuclear weapon, and then we'll have a conversation. Stop apologizing. But now let's try to do it in ourselves. I don't need to answer, no, Meshugana. If you're asking me a question, am I Jewish? Before I can answer you, I want to answer me. And this is a question to every Jew in America, including, by the way, observant Jews. Because at some point you ask yourself a question, what makes me Jewish? Here's what happens. If you're scrolling, you see one opinion says that opinion says this, he says that. People, yes, but are you a Jewish Jew?
Oh, like American Jew, what comes first?
Are you a Jewish Jew? Means, where are you taking, what's your brain and your heart, what's lying inside of you? That's the question. When someone says to you, does Israel have a right to exist? Or when someone says to you, right, are you a Jew? Maybe you're not. Maybe you are. Maybe you're not. It's the same question as anything. What makes anything real? And so here's the order of the day. The order of the day is that let's go back in history and understand, because we need to build ourselves historically. We need to build an anchor into our lives to know who we are and what we are about. When God gave the Torah to the Jewish people, the place he gave it was called the mountain of hatred. Because in Hebrew, the word sin'ah means hatred. And the sages tell us that Sinai and Sin'ah, very closely related. Har Sinai, Mount Sinai in Hebrew, Mount Hatred. And why was it hatred? Sheyarda sin'a le'umot ha'olam, because the hatred came down to the nations of the world. From that point, they hate us. Now, where are the haters? Outside and inside. From that point on, God gave us a mission and a purpose and a raison d'etre, a reason for being. He said, you represent the living God on planet Earth. Not because of anything you do, because of what you are. You are God's representative here. And then the Jews messed up. Right away. 40 days they messed up. What was the mess up? They bowed down to the golden calf. And the problem with bowing down to the golden calf was, why would you bow down to a golden calf exactly? I'll tell you why. What the golden calf represented was something very, very powerful. That is, when you live in this world, it's very easy to start to slip and to start to think that it's not God who controls the world, it's other forces that control the world. It's just like when you're trying to make money and you look around. How am I making money? Oh, because I follow certain people and I go for certain clients and I adopt certain practices and I become subservient to them. The golden calf represents the avodah zarah, a fakeness. It's difficult to think that God is the one actually in control. Do you believe God's in control of your health, of your wealth, of your livelihood, of everything? Is God the one in control? It's hard to think. Right now you would think, well, we happen to have a good president, we happen to have a good thing going on, it's amazing, lots going on. But you get that what made the president alive right now and do what he did was one simple thing. What did he do? That. He moved his head like that. At the right moment, at the right time. That's what he did, went like this. Had he not done that, Vashti would have been the queen. And that's the issue. And had she been the queen, well, we wouldn't have been in this situation. So let's get this straight. God's the one controlling the world. And God wants us to embody his mission and move forward. And that's hard. So the golden calf is succumbing to the forces out there in the world. After the golden calf, Moses went up to heaven. He spoke to God. Came down 40 days later. He said, I got forgiveness from God, and he went another 40 days. And he came down with the second tablets, and he came down with a special day called Yom Kippur. And on that day of Yom Kippur, what he did was, that was before. Smashing of the tablets was earlier. Yes, that was when the golden calf happened. On the day of Yom Kippur, he brought a second pair of tablets. And he told the Jewish people a simple thing. He said, there's such a thing called atonement. Atonement is a good word, it's called at-one-ment. That's how it's spelled. Becoming one with God. And he taught us a reality. That a Jew doesn't believe in any external forces. A Jew has God and only God at his core. And that's the work of life. Not to flinch. To be strong, mighty, and powerful as we move forward. The day after Yom Kippur, Moses gathered the Jewish people together and he tells them as follows. I'm a bit concerned that you're going to do a golden calf again. I'm concerned that you're going to forget again what it means to be a Jewish Jew. And so what I want you to do this time is I'm going to figure out a way to build a lasting structure of a Jew. How does a Jew who's going to be living in 2026, thousands of years ahead from that time, how am I going to ensure the continuity of the Jewish people? Because Har Sinai, the mountain of hatred, was one moment, and it's going to be so difficult. How are you going to keep this going? Moshe gathered the Jewish people, and he tells them, he says, guys, what you need to do is internalize the message of the Jewish Jew. I want you to meditate, reflect, ponder, download what it means to be a Jew, a Jewish Jew. How do you do it? So he says, I want you to build a Mishkan. What's a Mishkan? a home for the Shekhinah, the divine presence. And then he tells them, "Ve'asuli mikdash v'shachanti betocham." You want to know how you build a mishkan? How you build a home for God? The answer is in you. You embody a home for God. When that guy says to you, from the river to the sea, and he says you don't have a right to exist, what he's saying is, I hate God. And what you want to do is realize that it's not about you, it's about God. And if you stand your ground, you will win, you will prevail. Because if you're wondering whether brute force has prevailed through history or the Jewish Jew has prevailed through history, we're still around. We survived everyone. You may argue we're so weak. Our power is the power that is the only power that's been around in the world forever. It's undefeatable. There's only one thing that can defeat the power of the Jews, and that is when the Jews themselves are weak. It's time to get strong internally. It's time to build a Mishkan internally. And Moshe tells the Jewish people how to build a Mishkan. He says, you know how you build a Mishkan? The first order of the day is to keep Shabbos. That's how. Shabbos and the Mishkan become intertwined, right? How do we know all the laws of Sabbath? From what you can't do in the Mishkan. All the 39 types of categories of work you can't do in the Mishkan is on Shabbos, the same thing. What does it mean? How do you keep Shabbos? Well, the way you keep Shabbos is by, you internalize, right? Internalizing the message of what it means to be a Jew. So what does it mean to be a Jew? Here's what it means. A Jewish Jew. It means that once a week, when Shabbos comes in, go into a meditation, a deep, deep meditation. What's the meditation? The meditation is called, all your work is done. You're good. You're good. You're fine. What does it mean I'm fine? It means when God created the world, He created the world for the sake of the Jew and for the sake of Torah. And then He gave us the Torah, and He said, I'm giving the Torah to human beings, challenged, struggling beings. And I want you, the struggler. And I appreciate you, and I believe in you. And the struggle is not going away. The struggle is going to remain. What God wanted was to lower down into this world a light to lighten up the whole darkness. Take the whole darkness of the world and light it up with a bright, brilliant, dazzling light. That light is the light of the soul. The Jewish soul is here to light up the entire world. The trouble is, when you feel dark, you want to know what it means to feel dark? It comes in forms of depression. It comes in forms of addiction, in anxiety, being overwhelmed. Another one of those issues we struggle with nowadays is, who said I need to be alive? That's a question. That's a real question nowadays. Who said I need to be alive? Maybe I should just end my life. You know what that comes from? Maybe my life is not worthwhile. It's because you're not keeping Shabbos. Shabbos is the covenant of the Jews and Hashem. How do you keep Shabbos? What does it mean to keep Shabbos? Have you ever tried keeping Shabbos? It's hard work. When Shabbos comes in, you walk into a zone and you say to yourself, all my work is done. I don't need to do anything. I'm good. And then the other part of you says, what's going to be with that? And how am I going to handle this situation? And I got so much stress from that, and the money coming, and the this and this, and then all the flood your thoughts. That flood of thoughts, you know what it leads to? That's where depressions comes from. That's where the anxieties and addictions happen. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens because of a core belief. The core belief is the Western world hijacking the Jew and says, nothing matters. You're not important. because you could be this, and one day you'll become that. And until you don't become this, you're not going to be complete. And Shabbos is the day of feeling completion. A Jewish Jew is one who feels complete, wholesome. A Westerner becomes liberal and fragile. Also, if he's a conservative, by the way. You can be a conservative and fragile. It means you have no backbone. You don't know who you are. Once a week, we Jews go into a space called Sabbath. How do you keep the Sabbath? Keep it holy. You sit yourself down and you do those prayers that Shabbos comes in. Hashem. I'm going to sing to God. What am I going to sing? A song that says, wow. So when God created the world and he gave the Torah, he gave it over to me. And I am special. Not that I'm not struggling. Yeah, I'm struggling. I'm having a hard time. But I'm going to realize that contrary to what everyone else tells me that I'm going to be not struggling, I'm here to say that this person, with all their flaws and all my issues that I have, this is the one that God intended. You know that song? Abraham, are we the ones that you were intending? Are we the shining stars? It's a good song, look it up. Are we the shining stars that you were dreaming about? And the answer is yes. The only problem with being a shining star is, do you shine? Do you believe that you're a shining star? And if you don't sit yourself down and do that meditation, you won't get there. Yechezkel, the prophet of Ezekiel, speaks about, last week's Haftarah, he says, there's going to be a shar haponeh kadim sagur lo yipateach. There's a gate in the temple, in the Beis HaMikdash, which is locked up and never able to be opened other than on the Shabbat. What's that gate? The gate is a portal of entrance of my mind and my heart. All week long, you close the gate up. Why? Because it's actually good to feel incomplete. All week long, you're supposed to look for things to make you wholesome. Right? Yeah, you do. It says 6 days you should work. Sheishes yomim taveh. Go out and look for things to do. The gate of completion is locked. But one day, every Shabbat, we open up that gate. And we say, today, I'm going to realize how perfect I am. I'm absolute perfection. What does that mean, I'm absolute perfection? It means this is what God wanted. God, contrary to what the Western world will tell me, was not waiting for a person who's not struggling, who has a beautiful house, beautiful family, all the money in the world, everything going on, and that's almost as if there's an idyllic space of getting there. That's a Western hijacking of Judaism. Judaism is a struggling Jew who's got everything messed up and this bad and that's a problem and that's a problem. And they're just inside it and they're in an absolute state of joy. Because I'm not struggling, I'm God's messenger to this world, to the struggling world. That's the key transformation and shift. Now when God created the world, he gave the Torah to this me. And he believes in me. And if you don't keep Shabbos. I don't mean just do the motions. I mean to keep it, to actually meditate, reflect. And when Shabbos comes in, to let yourself feel how awesome it is to be this Jew that God put in this world. If you don't keep Shabbos, you have no backbone. So when Moshe gathered the people the day after Yom Kippur, the word he told them was, he says, Sheishes yomim tei osem melocho. 6 days work shall be done. Note the syntax. He didn't say 6 days do work. Sheishes yomim ta'asem melacha. He says 6 days work shall be done. Tei osem melacha. The difference is key. If you don't have a Shabbos, you have to go work to make yourself valuable. You have to do things to make yourself valuable. He says the way to keep Shabbos is by all week long realizing, I don't need to do anything. God's doing the work for me. I just need to pretend like I'm doing something. 6 days work shall be done is causative. It just happens to be. See the difference? If I have to go do the work, it means I have to do something to be valuable. And he's saying, no, you don't. You just be. You're special. You're holy. So why do I have to interact with the world and go make money and go build and do businesses and all that like that? Because God wants you to be known in the world. So what does it mean to be a Jewish Jew? It's a person who walks around and he sees all these anti-Semites of all different types. One says it in a Muslim way, the other one says it in a Christian way, the other says it in an agnostic way, as an atheist, all the different types. I look at every one of them and I say, let's get this straight. I am not an apologetic Jew. I'm a Jewish Jew. I don't care what you think, first and foremost. I'm not here to answer your question as to why I'm Jewish. The fact that you hate me is probably one of the greatest proofs that I'm Jewish. What I'm here to do is to say, I'm a Jew. I'm a Jewish Jew. I meditate what it means to be a Jewish Jew. That this is the person, this is the being that God put in this world. And I hope that if you're a Gentile, you meditate on what God put you in the world for. And you say, I'm here to serve God as well. And what does that mean? I'm special because God made me a human being. Yes, you are. A Jew has his mission as a Jew, and a Gentile has his mission as a Gentile, and you're special for what you are. If you don't meditate on that, what's going to happen? And when you do meditate, part of you is going to say, such nonsense, I'm not. And you look at yourself and you identify, yeah, you're feeling inadequate. Another feeling that comes from all the social media you're consuming and all the things out there. And you notice all the little feelings inside you and you calm them all down. And then you say, let's get this straight. I don't need anyone else to explain to me why I'm worthwhile. You know why it's worthwhile staying alive? Because you're godly. Jewish or Havdil Gentile, you're godly. And so Hashem put you in the world. God believes in you. But when you stop keeping Shabbos, you stop everything. You know, nowadays it's parental alienation. You know where that comes from? Unhealthy parents and unhealthy children. An unhealthy parent is one who doesn't know what their role is as a parent. And they become abusive. That does happen. An unhealthy child, what's that? That's a child who thinks you're supposed to honor your mother and your father because they're good to you. Not realizing you're supposed to respect your mother and your father because that's respecting yourself. Because that's how God placed you in this world. And the alienation is a part of the whole culture of being lost as to who you are and why you matter and why you're important. And then you have to go to like artificial ways of, I matter, I'm important, I am. You don't matter because you have a slogan, I matter. You matter because God thinks you matter. And when you don't understand, you don't appreciate that, you start losing everything. Everything falls apart. Every little thing, you question everything. And then you just, okay, forget, I'm jumping. Yeah, sad reality. The order of the day, to answer up those who think Israel has no right to exist, is here's very special. I don't exist because you think that I exist. And you give me a right to exist. Just like I'm not human because you tell me I'm human. And I'm not male or female because you tell me I'm male or female. And I don't fall into all of my addictions and everything. You need a speedy recovery. And I'm going to do everything I have to stay alive. And God will protect me. And God will protect the Jewish people. And He'll get us through this. And He'll get us to win. Now that we get this, once we got the core message, okay, now we're going to go out and answer the question. Yes, we do need to. Because 6 days work shall be done. But when you think 6 days work you're going to work, that's a problem. If you think that if you answer the guy, you're going to get an answer, he says you're not Jewish, they don't want an answer. They don't care exactly. Because at their core is a hatred. And I'm here to say, I exist because I exist. I exist because I exist. What does that mean? Because God says I matter. That's why. And I'm a light to the Jewish people, and I'm a light to the world. And every single Jew matters and counts because you have a godly soul. And every single Gentile matters. Every human being matters because God wants you to be a human being. He put you as a human being. Embrace that. So just like a Jew can keep the Sabbath, has to keep it properly. What does it mean to internalize this message? So too a non-Jew can keep it. Not actual keeper, but keep the idea, right? What's his name? Charlie Kirk understood very well that you keep the Sabbath. You get this idea of spending time with family, understanding what it means, drop the social media, drop all the thoughts of for one day a week or whatever else thinks about you, and go into a zone with yourself and God. It's a special zone. It's a holy zone. It's a zone which without it, you cannot exist in life. And then he tells them, now you can go build a Mishkan. What does it mean to build a Mishkan? Form yourself into a space for God. That's done through Torah and mitzvahs. Because a Jew who has a backbone, who knows who he are, we've here for thousands of years, we are God's people to planet Earth, and we represent, just like Haman, who understood, we represent the living God, the one God. And if you embrace that, now the other guy gets it that you mean business, that you're real. Now go out and answer him. But before you do, get clear yourself who you are and what you're about.